You guys, today, Caitlin Clark got fined $200. Kathy, what do you think you are accomplishing by that? What kind of message do you think you're accomplishing by doing? You're not even making an example out of her by finding her an exorbitant amount of money. You are literally making a joke out of yourself by finding her such a little.
The WNBA is at the center of yet another contentious ruling that flawlessly captures all the issues with the league's governance. This time, it has nothing to do with missed calls or biased game officiating. The league is deliberately disciplining its top player for having the gall to point out glaring issues.
Okay, and we know how this works because Sophie Cunningham has told us how this works. If you talk about the refereeing, if you talk about the officiating on the InstaFace, on the TikToks, on the Twitters, any of that social media, in the public, in the interview, if you mouth it in the shower, Kathy Engelbert will peek in and look around at you and point at you and be like, you're fined. Even though she won't clean up the officiating in her trash-ass league? Okay.
After her team's playoff triumph against the Atlanta Dream, Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever's incredible guard who has single-handedly revolutionized women's basketball and was fined $200 for posting referees, was unable to stop us on Instagram.
So during the game, we saw here, the Fever players celebrating. I would assume based on the reaction that this was after the Lexi Hull steal and everything. And Caitlin Clark on Instagram commented this: refs couldn't stop us. Elite bench mob. It wasn't for the lack of trying. Glad they're having fun and celebrating like no other teams. Will she get fined for saying that? Yeah, she got fined.
There is nothing more telling about the time. The WNBA decides this is the ideal time to use its administrative power against Clark as the Fever are making their deepest playoff run in almost 10 years and shocking the basketball world by defeating the Las Vegas Aces in Game 1 of the semifinals despite being huge underdogs.
When you're on the WNBA's time or the NFL's time or the NBA's time, getting fined, when you're on their time, criticizing the officials, calling out the officiating, I've seen players get fined for that. But when you're on your own time, well, now, other than Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark seems to be the two players that come to my mind of players getting fined, criticizing the officials, doing it on their own time, quote unquote, off the clock.
Rather of acknowledging the amazing narratives that are forming from these playoffs. Social media posts are being monitored by Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and her team, who are also enforcing minor fines for forward comments that dare to mention what everyone already knows.
The hate is real. The hate is real, Kathy. I see you hating on us from a mile away, Kathy Engelbert. We all see it. You out here trying to fine Caitlin Clark. You out here fining the one person who's actually bringing money into this league. What a joke. You're mad that the Indiana Fever are here right now. Y'all didn't expect us to get this far. Y'all really didn't expect it. We got Sophie Cunningham exposing the whole league agenda. Exposing them. Caitlin Clark mocking them all on Twitter, all on Instagram, everywhere, because they are.
If you find it entertaining, kindly subscribe. Let's be quite clear about what transpired in this case. Clark made two brief remarks in response to her team's official Instagram post honoring their bench following the Fever's 87-85 victory against Atlanta in the pivotal Game 3 of their first-round series. The referees and elite bench mob were powerless to stop us. The WNBA's Thought Police decided that the second comment, which contained 4 words that encapsulated what millions of fans have been saying throughout the season, was deserving of a $200 punishment. The ridiculousness is astounding.
What world do we live in? Like, I'm pretty sure she just said the refs can't stop them celebrating. This isn't even her going at refs. It's literally like if you say the word refs and you're an Indiana Fever player, you're going to get fined. If you say the word refs as a Fever player, the word referees has to be spoken, cannot be said by an Indiana Fever player, otherwise it's a fine. And the worst part is if they got fined for celebrating. So I don't think, only she got fined, not everybody. There's other people on the floor. Everything. She's not, like, they're celebrating. The timeout's been called. or the foul's been called, it is what it is.
We are discussing a league that has permitted methodical pursuit of its top player throughout the whole season. But as soon as she admits her bad officiating in the most tactful manner, they attack her as if she had committed a grave transgression. This is where things start to get completely crazy, though. Not even Clark is participating in these playoffs. Due to a groin injury that halted her second season after just 13 games, she has been out since July. The woman who filled arenas, increased television ratings to all-time highs, and gave the WNBA unprecedented exposure and money has been watching from the sidelines as her colleagues continue on without her. However, even when watching from the sidelines, even despite her anger at not being able to contribute on the floor, Clark was nevertheless targeted by the WNBA for the offense of expressing an evident reality.
WNBA definitely got to play these women more. You got to pay these women more. Because what the hell is a $200 fine? This picture right here is giving me Mom Made Pizza Rolls vibes. Mom Made Pizza Rolls and everybody. Ah! Caitlin Clark was fined $200 for her comments she left on the IG post. She said refs couldn't stop us, meaning they advanced to the next round despite the refs trying to throw them a curveball every game, despite having to play against the refs. And the league said, "Oh hell no, you gotta run me that. You gotta run me that 200. You got to run me that 200."
Clark herself's response makes it clear that she takes this absurd punishment very seriously. She received a $200 fine for posting this LOL on X, along with laughing emojis and a warning that tomorrow the bench mob would be much more unruly. Sophie Cunningham, a teammate, joined in the jeering, teasing that Clark would be severely impacted by the fine and cynically proposing to launch a GoFundMe. Professional sportsmen are giggling at the league's pitiful intimidation tactic. And with good reason. The figures highlight the small nature of the WNBA's punishment and put this amount in context. Clark's her endorsement relationships with Nike, Gatorade, and other well-known corporations are worth tens of millions of dollars, despite her $78.66 annual wage. In other words, this fine amounts to around 0.007% of her estimated net worth. The league's message and guiding principles are more important than the money. The WNBA is punishing the players who dare to call attention to the systemic officiating issues that have dogged the league all season rather than fixing them. Clark's remark wasn't particularly contentious, which just serves to exacerbate the matter. She refrained from using obscenities, threatening or personally attacking referees, or naming them. She noticed something basic: officiating couldn't stop her team from winning, a remark that may be seen as praising her teammates' fortitude and capacity to triumph over hardship. However, in some way, this called for league penalty while the real issues that led to the remark remain unaddressed.
That Sophie has got jokes. She retweeted this. That's really going to break the bank for her. Starting a GoFundMe now. Sophie, you got jokes. Hun, you got jokes. Sophie Cunningham Central, I'll donate.
This fine's timing exposes the WNBA's utterly outdated priorities. Clark's team was getting ready for their semi-final game against the Las Vegas Aces, who had recently watched their star A'ja Wilson win her 4th MVP award, while Clark was being disciplined for her Instagram statement. Consider the optics of this situation. The league's most popular player, Clark, is being punished for making modest criticisms about officiating, while Wilson, the league's most decorated active player, is being praised for her accomplishments. It's a fantastic example of all the issues with the WNBA's operations. This fine is made much more absurd by the larger situation. During the 2025 season, officiating has a constant source of annoyance for the league's players, coaches, and supporters. The league has mostly disregarded the issue of refereeing competence, which has been a recurring concern since the notorious Fever Sun fight that resulted in 5 technical fouls and 3 ejections, as well as innumerable instances of inconsistent whistleblowing and missed calls. Due to their criticism of referees, several coaches have received fines. Fan complaints have escalated to previously unheard-of levels, and players have accrued technical fouls at startling rates.
Rather than fining players for being excited on the bench and for letting it be known how trash your referees are, why don't you start fining referees for not calling fouls? Why don't you start putting that type of energy into making sure the game is played better? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? Because that would be nice. That would be nice if you could do that.
However, the WNBA keeps shooting the messenger rather than tackling these structural problems. For raising concerns about officiating bias, Golden State coach Natalie Nikasi received a punishment. For months, Stephanie White, the coach of the Fever, has been criticizing rude officiating. In other games, even Las Vegas coach Becky Hammond, whose team wins because of good calls, has said that the officiating is subpar. The trend is obvious. The most knowledgeable basketball experts are all in agreement. However, rather than addressing the issue, the league solution is to locate them. The fine is made even more offensive by the Indiana Fever's playoff success without Clark. Despite having 6 important players, including their biggest star, sidelined by injuries, this squad has nevertheless advanced to the semifinals for the first time since 2015. They astonished the basketball world by defeating the second-ranked Las Vegas Aces on the road, 89-73, after defeating the third-seeded Atlanta Dream in an exciting 3-game series. In that Game 1 triumph, Kelsey Mitchell scored 34 points, the second highest total in the history of the Fever playoffs, demonstrating her incredible ability.
What if this is the WNBA foreshadowing? We're seeing how you're acting on the bench. We're seeing how you're talking to the officials on the bench. We will tee you up. Now, whether I think that she deserves a tee for it or not, we're not even going to get into that. What if this is just saying, hey, we're going to tee you up if you continue to get at the officials, if you continue to talk up the officials, if you continue to show up the officials on the sideline, we're going to tee you up. We're not going to tee Sophie up.
This ought to honor tenacity, collaboration, and the breadth of women's basketball talent. Rather, the WNBA determined that this was the ideal moment to identify their brightest star for admitting that authorities were unable to stop her team's phenomenal run. It is petty, tone-deaf, and totally at odds with the league's professed objectives of expansion and greater prominence. There is no more dramatic contrast with Wilson's circumstances in Asia. Wilson, who recently won her 4th MVP award, is a living example of everything the WNBA establishment wishes to promote. She is strong on the court, tactful in interviews, and never causes trouble by criticizing league procedures. However, when she and her Vegas Aces squared off the players Clark was endorsing in her Instagram comments, Mitchell and the Fever bench stole the show during their matchup against the Fever in the semifinals. The Fever dominated the game from beginning to end while Wilson battled to an ineffective 6 of 22 shooting effort.
The Aces couldn't stop her. I actually don't think that the Aces perimeter, honestly, defense or offense is very good, but specifically defense, they just couldn't find an answer for Kelsey. They were sending 2 on her at different times, but the Fever were running cutters. Kelsey was making her way to the rim. Now, I will say the Aces defense is scary around the rim because you have somebody like Asia who averages over 2 blocks a game, and she's just there waiting and ready to block your shot if you get too close to the rim. But Kelsey Mitchell, I mean, she was just finding her spots, getting to her lanes, hitting those open threes, all of the things.
It's a delightful irony. Clark is penalized for claiming that the referees were unable to stop her squad. Then, that same team goes out and defeats her strongly favored squad and the league's golden child to demonstrate her point. The WNBA would be publicizing this amazing underdog narrative rather than levying trivial penalties via Instagram comments if they were wise. However, Kathy Angelbert's government has never been known for its brains or strategic thinking. This fine embodies every flaw in the WNBA's player relations and league administration strategies. They are more concerned with upholding an image of power and control than they are with safeguarding their stars and resolving valid worries about officiating quality. The opposite is true mindset that has hampered women's sports for many years, putting administrative ease ahead of athlete welfare, politics before a performance, and compliance ahead of competitiveness. The fact that this whole thing was avoidable is what irritates me the most. There would be no need for players to leave comments like Clark's if the WNBA had invested half as much time and effort into improving officiating as they do in keeping an eye on social media posts. Players might have more faith in the system if they had addressed the pervasive worries about call quality, improved training and resources, or put in place significant accountability measures for referees. Rather, they have opted to shoot the messenger as the message becomes increasingly loud and unavoidable.
Money that Caitlin Clark has generated for this league, all the tickets sold, all the jerseys, all the record revenue of the ratings, the television deal, and they're going to put their hands in her pocket for $200 for this. I'm like, hey man, do we need to call the armored guard? Do we need to have all this? And we need to deliver it directly to Kathy Engelbert's office. As a matter of fact, Caitlin Clark herself should be able to make an appearance, and she should do how Ice Cube did, when he used to run up into record labels. I'm saying, bring a bat. Caitlin, bring a bat. Bring the black Air Force.
The reason Clark has become such a beloved figure in women's basketball is demonstrated by her answer to the fine, which was to laugh it off and promise that her bench will be even more active. Even when she is unable to contribute on the court, she still supports her teammates and won't back down from speaking truth to power. She also refuses to be intimidated by league bureaucracy. She was a transformative collegiate player because of these attributes, and they will continue to make her a transformative professional athlete for years to come. The fact that Caitlin Clark was fined $200 for an Instagram comment isn't the true tragedy here. It's that the WNBA keeps squandering chances to capitalize on the amazing momentum she's generated for women's basketball. They have a team making an unlikely playoff run, the most popular athlete in league history, and intriguing stories that should captivate sports fans everywhere. Rather than taking advantage of this fantastic opportunity, they are continuing the tone-deaf strategy that has hindered women's sports for decades and imposing small fines for social media posts.
It is madness. It is madness, and I mean this. Like, the amount of people that are like, "Oh, I hate this team." It's like, why? They're excessively celebrating. They're excessively celebrating. They're not there talking down on other teams. They're not doing the Alyssa Thomas. They're not doing a Phoenix Mercury and shit talking other teams' fans. They're not doing a Phoenix Mercury and shit talking the other teams' players, their coaches, their all of this stuff. And then when they lose, they're silent and they dodge everything. Hell no, they're just celebrating. They're just celebrating. They actually find somebody for saying refs can't stop. The refs won't stop us.
It's an obvious message. The WNBA is more concerned with maintaining narrative control, rather than making the product better. Instead of really fixing issues, they would prefer to find players who can identify them. And if it means preserving their bureaucratic power, they are more than happy to squander the fantastic platform Caitlin Clark has created. This type of narrow-mindedness is the reason why women's professional basketball has taken so long to realize its full potential and why significant change under the current leadership appears to be as elusive as ever.